the keyboard to the boardroom. This is the Business of Esports. From the keyboard to the boardroom, this is the Business of Esports Podcast. I am Paul the Prophet Dawalibi. I'm joined today by my friend and co-host, the Honorable Judge Jimmy Baratta. For those of you who are new here, welcome to the official podcast of esports. What we do is we cover the most pressing esports and gaming news of the week, but we look at all of it through a business and C-suite lens. We dissect, we analyze the business implications of everything happening in this industry. For our regular listeners, thank you guys for tuning in every week. Thank you for all the love, the 5-star ratings and reviews. We really appreciate it. I promise I read all of them. They're all humbling. If you haven't left a 5-star rating and review on the podcast, please do so. Or maybe even more importantly, share the podcast with a friend. We would really appreciate it. Jimmy, how you doing this week?
Man, Paul, I get so hyped every time I see that intro. I know we've said it before, but you guys, Paul does not have that scripted. It's just off top, and no, that gets me really excited for the podcast as always. I'm doing great, doing great.
That's good. I'm sad you're not here as always. I feel, again, I feel like I'm repeating myself every week, but not having you in Dubai, I got used to having you here. And then when you're not here, it's not nearly as much fun. But
I'm only an Emirates flight away, Paul. I'm only an Emirates business class flight away.
just that. But no, I was speaking at Jitex this week. So anyone who's listening to this and maybe saw me there, they put me on 2 panels. One was called Are NFTs Dead?, which I thought was a provocative panel to begin with and a provocative title to begin with. I mean, the answer is yes, and then end of panel. That was the joke.
Whoa,
but
I think our guest will have some words with that one. What was the other panel?
No, it was fascinating. Actually, really good discussion on where NFTs are going, which I thought, I hope everyone appreciated. And then the second panel was investing in Web3 gaming, which was interesting because one of my co-panelists was one of the guys who invented the Cryengine, which very famously powers Crysis. You know, Crysis, it's a meme in gaming circles. Jimmy, maybe you're too young to know this meme, but like Crysis was shockingly difficult to run on the PCs of its day when it came out. Like the engine was just ahead of its time. The game was really difficult to run. You needed literally state-of-the-art hardware to even be able to have a chance at running this game. And so does it run Crysis was like a very early gaming meme. It was sort of a way like, well, your PC does it run Crysis. Anyways, so I thought that was fascinating because he's really into like Web3 gaming now, which to me, like on the spectrum of games, couldn't be any further from, Crysis, Cryengine, which was like hardcore, PC gaming, state-of-the-art PC gaming. It was fascinating. It was really, really, really fun conversation. I hope everyone enjoyed those panels because I had a lot of fun basically causing problems on the panel and causing controversy as usual.
Yeah. Well, I was at TwitchCon in San Diego, so I think we tag teamed.
Yeah, how was it?
It was a lot of fun, honestly. I had a private conversation with your favorite XQC, which I didn't expect. He gave me so much of his time. He was so polite. I met up with our buddy Knut, and Knut, we have some words on Camp Knut, and it was great to see him in person. He's just this absolutely massive individual, just like rock hard bodybuilder. And it was only a 40-minute drive from my home, so that was great.
Especially out of shape, right? Being next to him.
Yeah, he was both bigger and smaller than I expected. And I don't know how I can make that more clear. It was interesting, but it was really good to see him in person as well. But we're definitely hitting that event circuit, right? There's a lot of great stuff going on. I know you have another one coming up next month. I wanted to give one more special shout out. Spoke about this, I think, at the start of last week's episode with our former guest, Todd Harris from Skillshot, with his event, Esports Summit, which will be in Atlanta, November 17th to 18th. right before DreamHack Atlanta. If you haven't gotten your tickets yet, esportssummit.live. It's also in our newsletter. We're proud supporters of those guys, so definitely check it out.
Yeah, that's very cool. I think everyone should. I mean, if you're on the East Coast of the US, that's a no-brainer. You need to be there. Those guys put on a great event, and right next to DreamHack, so you get sort of the 2-for-1. It just makes a lot of sense. If you happen to be in Dubai beginning of November, though, November 9 and 10, I will be chairing the Dubai Esports Festival. I will be chairing what they're calling the Initiate Summit, which is like the B2B, the more sort of industry summit happening around the Dubai Esports Festival. So if you couldn't get enough of me at Jitex, definitely come see me at Dubai Esports Festival. Now, we do have, I'm sure, look, we have an amazing guest this week on the podcast who I'm sure has opinions on some of these things. So I want to bring him in because, everyone who listens to the podcast regularly knows how I feel about mobile gaming, knows how great of a business it is. And so I always love bringing people on who come from that world. And today we're lucky. We have an amazing guest. We have Jeff Donnelley on the podcast, who is the CEO of MegaFans. Jeff, welcome to the Business of Esports Podcast.
Hey, thanks, Paul. Good to be here. Hey, Jimmy.
Jeff, for those of you who don't maybe know about you or know about MegaFans, I'd love a little bit of the story, the background, how you got into gaming, what you guys are up to now, just a little bit of the Jeff story.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, I'm called an OG in the market. So I actually got into gaming in 1998 professionally.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I owned an advertising agency at the time, and I actually started off in iGaming. So online sportsbook, casino, poker, any gambling basically was the market. And I worked with some of the biggest brands in the iGaming space for about 12 years. Brought a lot of them into North America, marketed them around Europe as well, and was very fortunate in landing some of the biggest brands and being able to market some of the biggest brands. Always worked through the same funnel: user acquisition, retention, and monetization. So that's my trade. That's my whole career has been built around that. That market slowed down a bit in 2008, at least in North America, with the UJA Act. And so I shifted my focus onto proper gaming and started working with some e-gaming companies. So I was very fortunate to relaunch World of Tanks in North America. And I actually took World of Tanks from PC to mobile, which was my first foray into mobile. Also worked with Ubisoft on the Settlers game, not Assassin's Creed. As soon as I say Ubisoft, everybody says, "Oh, Assassin's Creed." I'm like, no, one of their older games from the 1990s, which is a kingdom building game called the Settlers, and had some good success with that. And then was introduced to a company called SGN, now known as Jam City, and did some go-to-market strategies and executed for a couple of games that you might know if you're into the casual mobile gaming space. So Panda Pop and Cookie Jam. And then sort of rounded it off on the agency side, got very fortunate and met the fellows that started up DraftKings. So I went from iGaming to PC gaming to mobile gaming, back to fantasy gaming, fantasy sports, and helped grow DraftKings for pretty much from inception, their first round of funding up to their first $1 billion valuation. And
Wow.
And that's actually what brought me to esports. So while I was working with DraftKings, always observing the market, always consistently doing what we call a SWOT analysis, which is always looking for opportunities, always looking for threats in the marketplace for the brands, protecting the brands that you're working with and that sort of thing. So strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats is what SWOT stands for. So we consistently throughout my career, always observing the marketplace, right? And seeing what's happening, and started paying attention to this esports space around 2014 when I saw, I think it was the first $100,000 US dollar prize pool go out, and I want to say it was on Dota. And I was like, oh wait, might be something here. Esports has been around since video games were invented. Honestly, if you get two people that can compete against each other, it was an esport, right? But when you start seeing prize pools start to emerge and this was the beginning of professional teams start to emerge. That's when I started paying attention. I started seeing the earmarks of what I thought and still believe today is the next natural wave in gaming. And that's what brought me into the esports space. So I started studying the space deeply around 2016. I was going to some of the earliest trade shows, esports business trade shows and things like that, and meeting some of the team owners, members, some of the publishers, early days of Twitch, that sort of thing, and was looking for, where was the next opportunity in this space. And that's when I discovered and triangulated and wrote a thesis around mobile gaming, esports, natural fit, both emerging markets, both growing markets. And the story is still being told today, but it's happening. And a lot of what looked like it was going to come true 2016, 2017 is actually happening today. So mobile gaming, largest sector in not just in gaming, but in the global entertainment industry, fastest growing sector in the entertainment industry. 3 billion daily active users that play mobile casual games on the daily. Those are uniques. That's a third of the world's population play mobile games every single day. So I get the whole hardcore, gamer sector looking at us saying, oh, it's not happening. But look who's coming over. You have the PUBGs, the Call of Duties. You have League of Legends. You got Overwatch now. They're coming. Guys, this is happening. We're watching it unfold before our eyes. So I know that the gaming space is here to stay, is going to expand. These little devices that are in our hands are becoming supercomputers. I'm reading that by 2025, half the world's population is going to be online, and 80% or 83% of all internet access is going to be done on a mobile device. So, fight it if you want, say what you want. It's coming. The wave's here. You insert esports into that, which is a proven user acquisition, retention, monetization tool, right? It creates value, creates competitive gameplay, which you have a natural human need to do, and all those things. That's what brought me here. That's the genesis of MegaFans. And what we ended up deciding to build was an esports tournament system. It's basically an esports tech stack that can integrate into any game. And it can be, we're mobile first, but it can be HTML5, PC, Web3, it doesn't matter. As long as it can transact and run a leaderboard esports tournament within that gaming environment, we can open up the world to esports, and everybody can have fun and play and earn digital assets and become, esports competitors.
Jeff, I'm curious, who's the target for MegaFans primarily? Like you're selling into developers, publishers, I assume, but are you focused on like a specific subsegment of this market? Is it more casual? Are you going after the PUBG mobiles and the Call of Duty mobiles of the world, or sort of everyone else who maybe doesn't have the resources to build the kind of, built-in esports or tournament kind of services within their game? Like who's the target for MegaFans primarily?
Good question, Paul. Look, it's a big market. It's a broad market, right? So our first move into the market was casual games. Again, biggest pool of players in the world, simultaneous players. And so that's casual games, right? But we just announced this, so it's official, it went public. We just formed two relationships, one with a game studio out of Vietnam called CROS. They have a game called Ukinga, and it's actually a mid-core battle arena game. High-level graphic design, functionality. They have mini games within their ecosystem. It's actually a Web3-based game. So they've got NFTs. You were talking about NFTs earlier. Those are going to have a place inside their gaming system. Look, that's just a digital asset, right? It's another form of a digital asset for them. So it works within the gaming system. It's natural. It's in its native environment. So that's going to be one of our first forays into a mid-core game. And then we also announced last month our relationship with Green Rabbit Gaming. They're actually based out of the US, and they built their first metaverse environment and first racing game, and they're developing some other games behind that, Capture the Flag, things like that. They've got a pretty good hardcore gaming community that they've already built, and we're going to be putting our esports system in there too. again, our esports system, it's a white label solution for game developers to be able to offer esports to their communities. So that's the core of it. Who we're targeting with that is all gamers, but we don't want to just focus on one or the other. It's going to be a mixed portfolio. I come from a history with my background in the ad agency business. I've owned 2 agencies. You always have like a certain percentage of your portfolio is going to be maybe, in this case, core gamers, right? And we want to earn our way to them and earn their respect, right? And then you're going to have probably the bulk of it mid-core, right? Those are ones that have a good lifetime value behind the players, right? Higher lifetime value. They spend more, they stay around longer. And there's a good pool of those, and it's growing, and it's growing very quickly. But then you've got your casual gamer and your mobile gamer. They don't spend as much. They're a little bit more fickle with the games, but you can put a lot of games into the ecosystem very quickly. So it'll be a mixed portfolio all the way down from core to mid-core to casual, even hyper-casual. And so we're not targeting one. We know it's going to be a mixed portfolio, but the market's going to dictate to us. It's going to tell us, where the players are, what their value is, where we should put our efforts and our times. But really, the way we've set up our system is that any game developer, it's open source, so any game developer can have access to our esports tournament system and use it just to build their community, give their community more value. Give them something to do besides just play the single game. Now they can go have other ways to compete. They can create factions. They can do teams. They can do single player. They can do massive multiplayer. You can have a tournament with 1 million players simultaneously playing for some sort of grand prize. So it's just really a way of, it's the game within the game, right? So it's gamifying the entire system.
But Jeff, that brings me to sort of an interesting question, right? What is the pitch to the game developers, right? What is the biggest thing that hooks them in your mind? Is it that integrating esports in their game will bring players back more regularly? Is it that players spend more? Is it just a great marketing exercise because it brings attention to the game in general? Like, what is the hook across the customers you guys have worked with, the developers you guys have worked with? Where are you seeing people sort of jumping out of their seats going, yeah, we get this. This makes sense for us?
Yeah, we approach it from a problem-solving perspective. So the 3 problems that every game developer has is user acquisition, retention, and monetization. And the reason is it's a crowded space. It's a highly competitive space. How do you differentiate yourself, right? So let's take Call of Duty PUBG, okay? FPS, right? Different environments. They're always upping their game. They're trying to come up with different storylines, right? That sort of thing, skins, all that sort of stuff, right? That keeps the players in, right? For a certain amount of time, they have a certain lifetime value. What if you can enhance that? What if you can say, hey, look, we've got the separate tournament system where you can actually put up a prize. You can put up an NFT. We're able to use it to sort of expand what's already there, right? So look, gamers like to game because they have a competitive streak, right? Whether they want to beat their own high score or they want to be on a team and beat others, they want bragging rights. But now we've got something that literally will give them something of value, and we can create that value around it. You can create these prize pools that can be anything from bragging rights up to infinite value prized. So it could be a $1 million prize pool, $10 million prize pool, right? So we could really create a system that is able to reach everybody, and no matter what segment of the market you're in, be able to approach that and address that. So it gives it more scalability, and it gives it more flexibility within the gaming community, right? And so that's really what we're offering them. And look, esports is a proven traction system, right? There's gamers, professional gamers. Look at what's come out over the last 20 years, right? And nowadays these pro teams have dojos with their own cooks. They've got mind and body psychiatrists, psychologists. They've got trainers, training them, right? Look at all these things that are coming out. They built a whole business out of that. The esports industry itself, right? Merging on what, $2 billion today, right? In ARR, and it's growing. So that's there. But how do you bring up where do you find where do you find the next set of esports players? Where are they living? Okay. So you've got this global market that's coming online. The next great esports, superstar might be in Chile right now, or might be in Indonesia. We don't know, right? But how do we get them into the fold? Offer it to everybody. Lower the barrier so that everybody can play at a certain level, no matter what type of game that they're interested in. And I think that's just going to help this. We're going to help accelerate the growth of the esports industry with this. And again, expand and give them full scalability so that they can offer, all the different attributes that attract a player. So when we approach a game studio, we say first, look, you're up against user acquisition, retention, monetization. Esports is a proven factor, sticky factor that can monetize your system, can bring in other players, can offer something else. And then you can scale it from there.
Jeff, do you see this working in any geographies better than others? Like, has there been uptake, like when you integrate this in a game, especially mobile games? I'm curious, right? Is there greater uptake in, Latin America, Asia versus North America, or is it about equal? Like, I'm curious if you see any geographical differentiation in the universe of people who use your underlying tools.
Yes, absolutely, Paul. So the strongest markets in mobile gaming right now, you just named them. It's Southeast Asia, SEA, and South America. I believe Africa's next. Africa's coming online right now and it's starting to emerge. But those markets, they just have a hunger for games, and it's almost like they got left out during the first wave, or maybe even the second wave of esports, right? Because it was console based and PC based, right? But again, what are these people? How are these people entering the internet every day? They're saying about 83% of them are going to be using mobile devices, right? So, yeah, mobile gaming, emerging markets, developing markets. That's where the bulk of the players are and are coming online. Let's use a Free Fire as an example, right? I watched Free Fire come up. Originally, it caught fire, pardon the pun, in South America, right? And now look at it. It's what I just saw some data recently. I think it's like number 1, 2, or 3 in the world, right? It's huge in India. It's got all these pockets all over the planet, but it started in South America. That they grabbed onto it, said, "Look, this is ours. We can own this. This is our version of an FPS." Right. And so, look, there's all sorts of opportunities. There's also all sorts of new games and IP coming to the marketplace that can use this esports platform. Right. I mean, really, what we're talking about is kind of parking ourselves right in between two of the largest gaming platforms that are out there right now. Right. So, you've got your Roblox and your Minecraft in the world. We're open sourcing this so that anybody can put an esports system into their games and offer competitive gameplay. I mean, why not? That's what people are there to do, is to play, win, bragging rights, digital assets, things of value. It's just a natural human need that we're meeting. And that's the approach that we took on this. It was psychological and problem solving.
Jeff, you've mentioned it a few times.
But Jimmy, sorry, I'll let you go.
Sorry, Paul. That. Oh, no, if you want to continue the thought.
No, okay. Go ahead.
So, I mean, Jeff, you've mentioned a few times user acquisition, retention, monetization. You've talked about, making your product open source for the devs. Curious on a couple different fronts, and I'll pose it to you broadly, I suppose, and let you tackle it as you will. For starters, are you guys doing anything as far as the mid-core or the casual gamers to help kind of funnel them towards the hardcore gaming end of the spectrum, or is it more just we want to provide our product to everyone and they'll use it as they may? Secondly, with regard to being open source to the developers and saying, hey, esports is this is this tool that we're using for those 3 kind of main sticky points, I believe you called them. What are they asking for from you in terms of, what are their needs? What are their changes? Where do you see these audiences or this tech being used and improving upon over the next year or two?
Yeah. So I'll answer the second question first. Again, it's very crowded space. It's highly competitive. I mean, I just got done with the tour. I just went to the Tokyo Game Show. I stopped in Vietnam to meet with several different game development studios. and then ended up in Singapore Token 2049, and met with game developers, publishers from all over the world, right? Everybody's up against the same problems, like I mentioned. Esports is a proven resolve or solves for those problems, but the games are looking for community. They want to build community around their IP, right? Their intellectual property, and that's difficult to do in this, fractionalized social media world, right? Look, we know a lot of core gamers. For instance, you guys are probably on Discord, right? So it's a heavy core gamer communities there. But even on Discord, they're all split up between the games. You have how many channels, right, to cover all your games on Discord, right? And then you've got, in the crypto world, you've got, Telegram being heavily used, and Twitter world's more traditional, but that's where you get a lot of news feeds. You might get updates from the AAA studios and things like that. So, how do they market? It's difficult for them, right? That's a lot. That takes a whole team just to manage each one of those channels. If you're a game developer, right? Can you rally around one single point, and can you use esports as that point? That's the question that I pose to them. And from our perspective, the answer is yes. Right. So if you can get your community to participate in these esports tournaments, which again, they typically have a natural inclination to do so, and then use that as that touch point to get them to rally around, well, now you can possibly combine all those channels to maybe an esports channel, right? Or take a link tree, right, where it's got everything on it in one place, sort of thing. Sort of use it as a bespoke, right, type model. That's what we envision that these gaming companies can do. Now, every gaming company, every IP is going to have a different type of user, a different faction, different mindsets, that sort of thing. So that might not work for all, but that's definitely something that we take to them as far as an opportunity, right? You can use these esports tournaments to create conversation, to create community, to get people to go on and maybe challenge each other, or offer to team up with each other, or, whatever the case might be, right? Look, we're talking about games at the end of the day. So let's break it down to its most simplistic form, right? So humans like to play games, period, end of story, right? So and these games are coming out, but they're up against so many competitors in the space, and they have to be in so many channels to try to capture them. It's behemoth. And it's very expensive for them to do so. They can use this as a pinnacle point to be able to do that, and it's proven to work. So we've been able to do it with the games that we've brought to market. And I think, Jimmy, can you? I'm sorry. Can you restate the first question again? I'll go into that.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely touching on it right now, but the first part of it was, you're talking about the casual gamers, the mid-core, the hardcore, and whether or not now through these community mobilizing events, through using esports to draw on their attention, are you funneling the casual gamer into a mid-core, the mid-core into a hardcore, and kind of changing how they self-classify?
Right. And it's still early days for us, so we actually haven't approached that. We know that bridge is coming. And that we'll be having that conversation. Matter of fact, my partner and CTO, Colin Bracey, who's been developing for 30 years, he and I just had a conversation this morning about cross ecosystem between one of the Web3 games that we're working on right now and our ecosystem, and how we can actually make that happen and make it multi-chain. I don't want to go too far into the blockchain space unless you guys want to, but multi-chain's sort of the future of where blockchain's going. So instead of having these separate segments of, you're either on Bitcoin, you're on ETH, or you're on Binance Smart Chain, to be able to cross over and use a digital currency that can operate on any of those systems is what's coming next. We're actually able to do it within our gaming system right now and actually be cross-chain agnostic, so that we can take an NFT from one of the other game systems that has a value to that player, that gaming system, and we can actually use it within our gaming system, and they can actually cross over. And so that's where we're going to see the crossover. So as far as hardcore, mid-core, and casual, that's going to be a bigger challenge. And look, again, there's different mindsets. So your casual gamers typically are either killing some time, right, with a casual game, or just doing something that's filling their time, let's say. Okay, mid-core gamers more engaged, right, and they stay around longer and they're more curious. Hardcore gamers are purely hardcore gamers. I'm here to play this game, to win this game. I want to be a champion of this game, right? And to get them to cross over, there will be opportunities to do that. But I wouldn't necessarily see a hardcore gamer going into a casual game unless it was something that really triggered them too much. So I think they're going to probably stay close to their same areas. There might be a little bit of a cross-pollination between them. And we'll have that opportunity with our system to be able to offer that. But we'll see what comes. We're going to let the market dictate to us how it wants to behave around that.
Jeff, I just want to dig into the MegaFans business model just a little bit. And feel free if there's things that are, trade secret, whatever, that you don't want to talk about, that's fine. But I'm curious, you mentioned it's open source. So I'm just curious, how do you guys make money? How do you charge sort of the developers or whatever for what the layer you provide? And two, is there a future where, I see a future where maybe MegaFans owns some of essentially the user data, right? Because all these people are competing in tournaments on your platform, essentially, right? Even though it's white labeled and it's sitting inside a game. I could see a future where cross promotion actually becomes quite valuable, right? Where maybe you have a game using your platform that's a first person shooter with, 1 million people all competing through MegaFans, essentially, that if I'm another developer of shooters, I may really want to reach those 1 million people who I know already are shooter fans and are competing, right? Like I could see, I don't know, is that possible, you think? Is it just, or is that a path fraught with, mines and all kinds of, I'm just curious how you're thinking about the business model, maybe long-term and short-term.
So there's obviously sensitivity around data, right? And you've got Europe, you've got where I'm in California, for instance, has its own sort of GDPR. And so you do have to be careful of that. But ultimately, this is a data building exercise, right? And it is about that data, and it's protecting that data, and it's being able to give the people in that database value. So and using that to cross over. So yeah, as far as the and that is the grand scheme underneath the business, as far as the business model itself goes, really. But as far as the upfront and the operating costs to run the business, that's done through revenue share. And revenue share can come in any variety of ways. One of the nice things about this, having an open source platform, is there's multiple revenue streams. So there's your traditional in-app purchase to participate in a pay-to-play tournament to win something of value. So you have IAPs. You have advertising, whether it's rewarded advertising or interruptive advertising. If you play for free, interruptive ads. Pay-to-play, rewarded ads, right? So there's and we built our own ad server into the tech stack. There's sponsorship opportunities all over the place, right? So you've got, take your big energy drink companies or whoever wants to reach this audience, right? They can offer product to give away to our audience. They can have access. We can rent them access to our socials to go market their product on our socials, or they can actually do like a takeover where they take over one of our tournaments and run it in their own community. So there's all these crossover opportunities with sponsorships. And then obviously, as I'd mentioned, we've already pivoted into Web3 by offering digital assets to our players. And we, by the way, we surveyed them first. We survey our user base on a regular basis. We have 600,000 registered users today, and we've got about 100,000 followers on social media. So we asked them, what do you think about NFTs? Would you be interested? Because we were reading in the trades, about these core gaming factions saying, no, not Steam, right? Not in our environment. 80% of our audience was crypto curious. Wow. And they said, tell us more. Yeah, we want to learn about this. Yeah, we want to win these. We want to use them. Show us how. So we actually built a very novel, it hasn't been done yet that we know of with any other gaming system, where people can hold NFTs. They can win NFTs in our tournaments. They can buy them in the open marketplace. or they can stake tokens to earn points towards earning an NFT. Once they hold one of our NFTs, they actually get a piece of the revenue from other tournaments, but not directly monetarily. They actually get game currency for holding the NFTs from our other tournaments. So it's the players supporting the players, right? It's a self-supporting ecosystem. And so we just introduced that last month, and we just launched our NFTs for that as well. So we wanted to give them a real utility. And so that's what we're doing with it today. So there's all sorts of ways to monetize this, many different revenue streams. Again, we'll play to the strengths, but primarily it's doing revenue share. We're also a publisher. So we'll take some of these other games and we'll market it to our audience, as well as help them co-market it to certain markets that we already have traction in and understand how to market to different localized markets. So there's revenue from that as well.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It sounds like there's not a lot of risk, right, on the part of the developer. They're not taking any upfront risk by integrating your tech stack, which is cool, right? The rev share.
The only risk is integrating. The only risk is integrating our tech stack. And yeah. I'll tell you this, and working with game developers in the past, of course, they're very sensitive about that, right? And rightfully so. They need to protect that. But yeah, this is a great opportunity for them. And we invite listen, we're talking to over a dozen different game development studios right now. Like I said, we just announced 2. We've got 2 others that are very close to signing on with us, and we've got about 10 or 12 more behind them. So they're starting to stack up now. I think they've finally seen that there's a real opportunity here, and there's real interest in the market.
Jeff, that brings us to everyone's favorite new segment, and that is Judge Jimmy's cross-examination. For those who are new to the podcast, the way this works, Judge Jimmy's going to ask a few rapid-fire questions here, get to know Jeff a little bit better as a person, a business person, a gamer. Judge Jimmy, take it away.
All right, Jeff, we'll keep the first one a little easy here for you. What is your favorite video game title of all time?
All time?
Your personal favorite.
Can I date myself here?
I'm hoping you do.
Defender. I crushed Defender back in the day. Owned it.
Normally, when I haven't played a game, Paul has. Paul, have you played Defender?
This is not a game this is not a game I've played.
What's Defender about, Jeff? I need to know more on. I need to know more on this one.
So it's interplanetary. You're on a spaceship. You're getting shot at. It's a 2D platformer. Okay, and so you're going across the screen, and you've got all sorts of floating obstacles and things that are shooting back at you. And
of course,
getting shot from the air. But then there's secrets in it. There's these hyperspace portals where you can go to other planets and things like that. And I ruled that game in junior high. Ruled it like nobody could tell. I also worked in a game room. So
nice.
Yeah. So there you go. All time. And my brother was the only one that could really compete with me on it because he spent his whole college career playing it. So
I need to port this to mobile, I think.
You know what? There have been some versions of it.
Okay, cool.
And I do have them.
I'm going to make it a little more current. What region do you think is the most exciting in the video game and esports industry today? Where do you think the most innovation's happening, or where should people be diverting their attention as far as? Well, I'll let you interpret that as you may.
Yeah, there's 2 different markets. So for innovation, Southeast Asia just absolutely opened my eyes. My recent tour through there. I spent 3 weeks over there. I met with some of these game development studios that were building some of the best IP I've seen come out of. Now, it's given these are tier 2 game development studios. This isn't the big AAA, right? But what they were building was, first of all, mechanically sound. The environments and the textures and the contextual stories within the games and everything was so strong. The IP was so strong. The teams were fast, efficient, building amazing IP. So you're going to see some big games coming out. And I did learn that there's a quiet little race happening right now between game development studios, between Korean game development studios and Chinese game development studios on who can bring their Web 2 games to Web 3 first. And and I heard it from, I always make sure I get 3 data points before I make a statement. I heard it from three different contacts that said by the end of this year, you're going to see several games out of Asia crossing over to Web 3. So that's one of the big movements happening, big innovation there. As far as growth goes in user base, users in the world, South America is coming online. It's on fire. And we just turned on, and we already knew we had some strong testing that we had done in certain markets down there, Brazil, Argentina, Chile, places like that. We flipped one of the markets on recently, and it became our number 3 market in the world. This is after 2 years of database building. Brazil became number 3, like within 60 days.
Wow.
And then we learned that it's just so happens Brazilians spend more time on their mobile devices than any other market in the world. 5.5 hours per day on average. It's incredible.
Yeah.
So there you go.
All right, last one for you, Jeff. This may be more in your capacity as a CEO that often hires, new employees. I'm curious what skill set or what background or what intangible quality you look for in your new employees that you could recommend to our younger audience here.
Always looking for gamers. Always looking for, you want people that understand the environment, right? And I actually hire young. I hire all ages, but I focus on a lot of the people that are just coming into the marketplace because they're the next wave, and they see things that we don't see. We're behind. I'm in an office or in an airplane and traveling, doing these business meetings with people of similar environments, and then you've got these hardcore gamers that are online. I had my team show us Discord. Our entire company now is run on Discord.
We do as well.
Yeah. And that's fantastic to hear. When I started telling these other game studios that we were doing it, they were like, you saw these question marks pop over their heads. Right. And I was like, no, it just makes sense. And so look, the next generation that comes up is going to teach this generation what's coming. And you have to be at the forefront. You have to be on the leading edge of this. And that's the only way you're going to be able to do it. Now, you have to have senior people with the skill sets and the managerial skills to be able to help guide those people and teach them. But, I've run internship programs at both my ad agencies in the past and this esports company. I always bring in university students. I like international, always looking for new perspectives, new voices, and that sort of thing. So, that's how we hire.
Awesome. Jeff, really appreciate your time today. I'm giving you back to Paul. Thank you.
Jeff, for those who want to follow you, find out more about MegaFans, reach out to you, like how do you like to be followed or found?
Well, personally or by business? Because the business, we can drop you a link tree that has all of our hot links in it. And I'm sure Zach will probably post it on our chat for you guys to repost. But it's most of our socials are MegaFans_esports. So if you go
and
to
you
link
personally,
tree,
Jeff?
Me personally, I'm still a little bit old school. So Jeffrey Donnelley at LinkedIn, so still using LinkedIn for business, but I'm also on Telegram, JDCA8. And here, I'll give you guys this one. So I'm on Discord. I'm Donho84.
I love it. A lot of it's a business podcast at the end of the day. So a lot of our audience is obviously on LinkedIn. I really encourage everyone to follow what you guys are doing, to reach out if there's interesting connections there. But I think it's fascinating because I love the idea of, a tech stack that all of these games can implement, and then being able to do things on the back end when you have this kind of scale and this kind of reach across different games. I think it's very cool. I love what you guys are doing. Jeff, thank you so much for being on the show. Jimmy, thank you as always. Just a couple of reminders for our audience. Make sure to follow Business of Esports everywhere, on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, you name it. We put content on every single platform. It's different content everywhere. And don't forget, we do a live show every Wednesday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. It's all the news from the week. It's a big cast. It's a lot of fun. We get to do it live with you guys, so you get to come disagree with me or agree with me. but highly recommend 2:30 p.m. Eastern time every Wednesday, and it's broadcast everywhere you find our content, so it's easy to find. Jeff, thank you again. Don't forget, guys, the most important thing, the future is fun. We'll see you next week.